Hi, this is Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse Frugally with What Would You Make? For the month of March, we are doing wood items, flipping them into something that you would like for home decor. And I am starting with two sweet little picture frames that I got at my dump on the Good Table. And they are in that kind of cherry wood color, not what I'm looking for. So I gave them 2 coats of a linen colored latex paint that I had just hanging around my home, and then just simply used the glass to cut out some linen colored cardstock. And then I took out my sweet little transfers that I got on Amazon, and they had a number of beautiful little florals. So I thought that I would just transfer a couple of little florals right on to these cards and then put it all back together. And I did hit that linen paint with some of the distress ink to make that a little bit more vintage. And that is a very, very simple first project. I am displaying them right now on my dining room table. I got this black basket 2-tiered tray on my Good Table at the dump a week or 2 ago, and all I had to do was just wash that up. So I thought that that looked really sweet there. And then I went outside to get some wood from my wood pile, and I found a nice chunk of bark, and I thought this would make a wonderful centerpiece for my Easter table. So I am starting with just wiping the dust and dirt off of this bark, and then I am going to glue some moss and some items that I have to make this look a little bit like a woodland scene. There were a few items that needed to be painted to begin with, so I am starting with that first. I'm just taking that same linen paint and I am painting some little wooden knobs. I'm able to get these wooden knobs for 10 cents a piece in a local antique store, so I get a bunch of those. And in this case, I just glued them to a little, not a Jenga block, but one of the real short little square wooden blocks that you can get at the dollar store. And then I have this little house that I bought a bag full of all kinds of little bits and pieces, odds and ends, birds and houses and all different kinds of things for $5. And this was in there, but it was a very dark brown and the wrong color brown. So I just brushed over the top of that with kind of a dry brush to bring out the detail on that. And then I am gluing a long dark Jenga block underneath that. I want this to feel more like a birdhouse. And then while I'm at it with the paint, I just take a little dollar store, I don't know, somewhere I got this bag full of all different shapes and sizes of different pieces of wood, and I've had it in my stash for ages, and I just painted that, and then I added a little hors d'oeuvre stick to the back, kind of like a toothpick, to the back of that to make that look like a sign. So I want to start with that so that all of this can dry while I move on. Keeping with the wood theme, I went out to my yard and I got some grapevine, and I just made a small, almost like a grapevine wreath, and then just hot glued that right on to the top side of this piece of bark. I love working with items from nature and using free items or inexpensive items as much as possible, hence the name Frugal. I am taking some sisal that I got a year or 2 ago to make some Christmas trees at Christmas time, and it comes in quite a lot of it in a pack. And I am just adding that to the bottom of this grapevine wreath to make this look like a bird nest, and I am just filling it with some other different mosses that you can get at the dollar store or what have you. And then I had this pack of little bird feathers that I've had from the dollar store for a long time. Again, it does probably 150 in a pack, and you only need a couple, so that goes a long way. So if you can get them at your dollar store, that's well worth it. And I'm just gluing some here or there just to give that a look like it has had a bird in it. And then I am adding almost a peachy pink color egg to this. And then I am going to decorate the rest of this with just some items that I have to make this look woodland. So I'm going to glue that bird feeder looking bird house rather there, and then I am going to add some moss and some greens going up it, just whatever you like to do. That little knob, those two wooden knobs, one was a little smaller than the other. I am going to place those in the front of that birdhouse, and then I'm going to fill all around that wooden block with moss and around the stem and any place else that I've glued to fill in some moss, but leaving quite a bit of the bark. I want that obviously to look like it is made out of bark. And then once I have that on there, then I am just filling the rest of that in, and then I am going to take some paint, brown paint, on the end of my I have a little wooden bird. It's a little black bird that also came in that bag full of wooden items. So I stuck that next to the egg. And then I am just adding some dots with the back of my paintbrush using some brown chocolate paint to make these little wood knobs look like mushrooms. And I'm trying to keep this all in kind of a real neutral color. You could certainly do red. You could do anything that goes with your home decor, but I'm trying to keep this really green and cream and natural tones. Now, I just want to say that this collaboration, What Would You Make, is hosted by Connie and Brenda, and they have a guest host this month who is Kathy Joe. Their channels will be in my description box with a playlist for all the other creators who have joined in on this collaboration, so make sure you check out each of them when you're finished with this video. Then to finish this off, I pulled out a few peachy pink florals and a few pieces of greens, just some bits and pieces of leftover florals that I've had from other projects, and I'm just tucking them here and there. I wanted to pull out a little bit of the peachy pink color from the egg, and that was about the only color that I really wanted to have in here beside the neutrals. Now, you could certainly just make this your own. You could do bunnies. It would be beautiful to do something like this with a tomb with the stone rolled away, with the cross, to make that a more faith-based Easter. You could anything that you like, whatever works for you. I kind of want this to be more year-round, so I am taking my distress ink and I am just highlighting the edges of the mushroom, and then I am taking that little sign and I am just hitting the edges of the sign to make that look a little bit more vintage, give that a little bit more of a 3D look to that. Then I am just going to take a little brown marker and write Happy Easter and stick that right in. Now I can remove that when Easter's over, and I can keep this throughout the entire spring and summer. And I am in love with the way that this came out, but I'd like to know what you think. And if you have enough little bits and pieces in your stash that you could go out and make something like this for your Easter centerpiece. I love the way that it looks on my white table runner that I made in a recent video out of a vintage sheet with that lovely lace trim on the edge, and just a ironstone pitcher full of that same peachy pink florals. I think that is absolutely lovely. So you will have to let me know what you think about this. I think this might be my favorite, but there is one that I also made in this same kind of idea that I love as well toward the end of the video. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And then another thing that I had in my stash a couple weeks ago at the dump, I got 3 of these bowls, cute wooden bowls that I should have gone down and sanded, but it is snowing and cold here, and I don't want to go out in my garage today where it's so cold, so I decided I was going to try to paint them with some of these different spring colors that I have in latex paint to see if it will stick. It's always better to get a good sanding on the bottom of it, but I know that I'm going to distress these back, so I don't mind if they chip a little bit. So I have that brighter green color, I have this pretty robin's egg blue color, and then I have more of a tan color. So I painted each of them different, and then once I was going to do the second coat, determined that I really didn't like the bright green. It's just not my style, so I opted to paint that over with a much lighter silver sage, which is a much lighter green gray. Now, they did take 2 coats each of these colors, and then once they were dry, I took my sanding block, sanded around the edges and a few places here and there to make those look a bit more vintage. And then I took my dark antique wax and I waxed the whole thing so that the paint would stay adhered on all 3 of these. I am still waiting for the third one to dry so I can finish it, but I will show you what these 2 end up looking like. I just will stack the 3 of them on top of one another. So here they are on my front desk in my little foyer with some other blues and creams, and I just think they're very sweet, easy. If you ever have any of these wooden bowls, it's a great thing to just simple flip. Now, I have this beautiful little wooden finial that I got a whole bunch at the good table at the dump, and I wanted to use that as well as another wooden finial that I have to make another more natural outdoor cute little project, just something that could go on a tiered tray, something that could just be tucked on a shelf, and it would be great for Easter, but certainly good for spring and summer. So I am simply just starting with yet another nest to put it in one of these little metal patty pans. So the same idea as the other one, I just used the patty pan, I just put some sisal and some different mosses and some of those feathers, and then I had this really beautiful blue-green egg in my stash, and so I just added that all together, and then I pulled the nest out so that I could take some of this wired jute. I don't know if they still sell this at dollar store or not. I had picked this up probably 2 years ago and had this left over, so I thought this would be perfect. You could use wire if you have a nice thick wire here, but I didn't. The nice thing about this jute is, 1, it looks very natural, but 2, that it's easy to glue it to this metal surface. So I am just going to hot glue, starting with 2 of these. And then I am going to tuck the nest back in. You possibly could do all 3 of these and then get it in there, but I didn't want to take a chance of, having to bend that wire too much or ruining it. So once I had that done, tucked that back in there, then I have this little wooden knob that I got at an antique store. I think I paid about 50 cents for it, and it is the perfect thing to raise this up again. And of course, we're supposed to be using some wood items. So the bottom is one of those little furniture knob type things. This is an antique one. And then I am going to put that all back together. I'm going to glue the 3 together at the top. And then I am going to take that finial and I am just going to hot glue that right to the very top of this. And then now to finish this, I decided to glue a little bit of green vine-like foliage up a couple of the wired jute in the back behind the egg. I didn't want to do all of them, so I just did 3. And then I went into my stash and I found I had a little bit of these Lily of the Valley that I absolutely love. And I just glued a couple of those in the bottom of the nest near the egg, just to give this a little bit of a pop of some lighter tone. I like that white, and that finished this off. And I can't decide which of these two I like best, the Centerpiece or this one, but I love both, and I will absolutely be keeping both of these. And honestly, this cost me 50 cents. The patty pan was free at the dump. The top finial was free at the dump. Oh, plus probably another $1 for the wired twine. So maybe $1.50. Everything else I had in my stash for years and years. But you could probably make this for $2.50 if you had to go out and buy some moss. So it is a very inexpensive, very sweet item that I think is I just love it. So let me know what you think about this one. Now that takes me on to another item I've had in my stash for a while. I also got this piece of wooden, I want to say cookbook holder. I believe at the Goodwill bins probably cost me somewhere between 50 cents and $1, so that I can use it to display just items. Sometimes I want to display a sign or a wreath, or I don't know, something that I don't necessarily want to hang on my wall. So I thought I would give this kind of a basic finish so that it is somewhat neutral and I can use it different seasons. So I'm starting by giving it 2 coats of a white, I think it's a chalked paint that I had in my stash, but it might be a latex paint. Now this ended up taking 2 coats of the white paint in the front, the back, sides. I did leave the 2 things that it rests on wooden, and then once that is fully dry, I had this piece of decoupage paper that I've had in my stash for quite some time. I do not recall where I got it, but it is a white and gray shiplap barn board kind of a feel. So I thought that this would be a nice neutral, as well as my kitchen is whites and grays. So it will go good with that if I want to use it in there to actually hold a cookbook at any point in the future. And so I am just going to decoupage that right onto the front, and then I am going to use a Ziploc bag to get that down without having too many wrinkles. I don't mind a little bit, but I got most of the wrinkles out of that. And then I'm going to let this fully dry, and then I can sand all around the edges. I did have a napkin in my decoupage stash here that I absolutely love. I think it goes so well with what I've been working on today. I love the colors and the bird's nest, so I decoupage that right in the corner underneath and on top of that. And then I will just, after I sand all of this, just add a little bit of the Distress ink to make this look more vintage. Sand a little bit of the wood item at the bottom, and that is pretty much it for this piece. It is a very, very simple thing, but I think made a really big impact. So make sure that you hit subscribe if you're not subscribed. I would love it if you would hit like, and if you would leave a comment to help my channel to grow. And do not forget to check out my playlist in my description box and the host channels. Thank you so much for stopping by. I truly appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.